Hey everyone, welcome back to the Track Limits podcast presented by Formula Addict. We are now back at Toronto simulators after the Spanish Grand Prix just ended. Remember, if you're in the GTA area, Greater Toronto area, or Toronto, come out to Toronto Racing Simulators. Use TL50 to get 50% off your first hour at this incredible space. But we have a special guest today. Before I introduce the guest, let's do a quick rundown of what happened in the Spanish Grand Prix. We had Max Verstappen come out and win. Pretty interesting strategy. Started on the mediums, went to the hards, then ended on the soft. Won by about 18 seconds, though, over Lewis Hamilton, who came into P2. Back on the podium, you have George Russell. You have Sergio Perez in fourth. That was about 3 seconds behind Russell. Then you have Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll, Alonso, Ocon, Joe, and Gasly finishing up on 10th. Leclerc missing out on points.
Where's my man Yuki?
At 11th. I know. We're going to talk about Yuki. We're going to talk about Yuki. So upset about that. But guys, first and foremost, Niru, introduce yourself. What were your general thoughts on the race and who are you?
Well, who am I? Well, my name's Seven. My job is to wrangle all three of you. That's who I really am. No, my name's Niru. I am a creative consultant in motorsport, sort of helping brands with better engage their fans through content.
Yeah, and you were at Indy, right?
And I was at Indy. I was at the Indy 500.
Hey.
Showed up 5 minutes ago. Still reliving it. I think it was a sensory overload is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
For anyone, I would highly recommend they should go to this race. I know this is an F1 podcast, but Indy 500, just as a race experience, is a must-do for sure.
Yeah, we have guests actually coming up. We're not going to say who, but we have some guests that are within the Indy world. Yeah. So I'm very much looking forward to exposing our audience to that.
Even when we were at the Indy, it was such a good experience.
Yeah,
such a good experience.
Yeah. 100%. But what did you think about the Spanish Grand Prix, Niru?
Where to start?
Where to start? I think I was on the sim half the time.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately. My guy Lewis did well.
Huh?
Even though I'm wearing a McLaren shirt, I'm still a Lewis guy. Enjoyed the race, but I think it was kind of just dull, to be honest. Nothing like too exciting apart from a couple strategies here and there. Some interesting choices made, but apart from that, really, it was just Max doing what he does best.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Henny, you would agree?
I agree. With Max, it's a given. Even Toto came out and said, I hate to say it, but Max is on another level. He's untouchable right now. I think we've seen that since the season started, and Checo is a great example of why there's a big separation between them two. And Checo, at this point, he just needs to focus on just getting podiums, and with the car he has now, just keep doing the best you can. I think the championship is pretty much wrapped up unless Max flips a switch or something. So for Checo, just keep getting podiums.
Yeah, Max actually had first in every single session.
Yeah.
FP1, FP2, FP3, qualifying, and the race.
Yeah.
Mikey, your thoughts?
I'm going to say the complete opposite of you boys. I loved every minute of that race. Like, even from qualifying, it was like the big dogs weren't up there. Like Russell missed out, Perez missed out, and then in the race, like, sure, Max now, exclude Max, he's on a different level right now, but the mid-pack field was such good battles and fights. Like, I genuinely thought it was so entertaining, and a lot of overtakes, which we've kind of missed as well. So,
and multiple pit stops. We finally get to see
multiple pit stops. Yeah, and I know the rain obviously was a big thing. Like, is it going to come? Is it not? But to be fair, I do like multiple pit stops as well because you finally get to see strategy play a much bigger role.
100%.
Right, and when to pit, when not to pit. I remember we were talking, Henny, Verstappen on the mediums. You felt like they might have pitted them a bit too early.
Yeah, I mean, considering that the Mercedes were on the softs and did the exact same amount of laps, I was like, what is happening? Like, the whole point is to be on the medium so you can go on a longer stint and do any undercuts that you may take place. But I was confused, but somehow he still ended up with a win.
The whole lack of data on the hard tire made it interesting. Because teams are like, oh, let's do the hard tire. 15 laps later, they're pitting for softs.
I think that's a Ferrari thing.
Yeah. What?
Niru, do you think that the hard tire was the tire to go on today or no?
Yeah, as a race strategist, I definitely think so. No, it was so weird how we were talking about this, Mikey. We just said Leclerc going on hards, then going back on softs. Yeah. It was just kind of just back and forth all the time, and didn't seem like it was working. Even Max had that same issue as well. He said the hards weren't working after a bit and went back on soft, and then he went on to score a fantastic lead, right? So it definitely wasn't the right choice, I guess.
Yeah.
And then what about our favorite moment in the race? What was the best moment in your opinion? Maybe Mikey, we'll start with you.
I'm gonna pass this on right now. I need a moment.
Okay, well, Niru then.
Sorry, I missed what you said.
Oh, I passed on the question.
Oh,
He has none, apparently.
Oh, you don't have a big moment. I finally getting to see Lewis do well. Finally, it's been a bit, but that was fantastic. I think that was it.
And what a shift, though, right? Lewis, I mean, coming after free practice 2 was like, I don't even know if we'll make the top 10 on Saturday, to then obviously doing well in qualifying and then, a really good result for him overall.
Exactly.
Henny, your thoughts?
Best moment will probably be, again, qualifying Lando, finishing, P3. I think they're starting to figure out what their car can do and cannot do. And I think this was a track for them to figure out how fast they are in the corners. Their straight line speed, we know that doesn't exist, but they were still able to pull a P3 with having no straight line speed. That's fantastic, and it gives them hope that in the future races they can bring upgrades and put on a show for us. Because I think McLaren needs to be up there, considering you're wearing. We haven't said anything about him, but yeah, I think that was the most entertaining part.
What was cool too is to see like Piastri. I think yesterday was like, I don't know why, and I think Lando reiterated this. Like their car works for a very particular window when it comes to track temperature. Like their car just comes alive, and they're trying to figure out how to replicate that across other temperatures, but then also they don't really fully know why their car is so good in that tiny window. Obviously Norris was like, it's also me. Which it is, but
But even Danny said this last year as well, that in the qualifying laps on low fuel load, the car performs really well. But as soon as you add an extra weight to it, it's like a different beast. Now, I'm sure other teams go through that, but I think even though Lando did get third in a very unfortunate first incident, but I do wonder the race pace, because it's one thing to say qualifying, but race is a completely different
thing. Because Piastri showed us that they really didn't have a great pace for today.
No incidents with Piastri. It was just pure him racing, and wasn't really able to come and do much. Mikey, your best moment?
Just in overall, like I was great to see the Alpines up there. I like Yuki was fighting like a dog. Loved every minute of that. Very disappointed by that end result. Don't know why he got the penalty, to be honest with you.
I don't know.
Yeah, but no, in general, there's no real like one moment for me. But the race, like both Mercedes up there as well. I feel like those upgrades are actually really working for the car.
Is it working?
Is it?
You don't know.
If we compare from last year's, I mean, even with the chicane that has changed, they were still fast in the corners. The only thing they struggled with was straight line speed, which I think it kind of improved this year. But other than that, I think we still need to see a few more races before we can say it has worked.
But don't forget, they're only still getting the data in, because like Monaco isn't a great place to get the data. It's such a closed circuit. So like, let's wait till Canada. You never know. They might make some tweaks and they could be right up there.
Exactly. I agree.
Oh, sorry, I was just sweating. My bad. I thought it was rain, bro. I was like, where is it?
George Russell. Is it raining or is it just my sweat?
That was my best moment. That was my best moment.
I forgot that was the best moment. You know what?
And you said this in the car, Henny, but the fact that he also called out a particular turn. He was like, turn 5.
There's a bit of rain.
It must have been the G-force and just whipping it off his brow onto the visor.
It was the best moment. He was like, I think it's raining in turn 5. His engineer just goes, I think this is a you problem.
That's a you problem.
This is a you problem.
What about biggest surprise, biggest letdown? What did you guys think, Henny?
Biggest letdown would probably be Lando. I think he made a misjudgment on that and cost him the race pretty much. If he hasn't, it would have been a great point finish. I don't know if it would have been podium with the pace they had, but they would have been up there for, I want to say P5, P6, and anywhere in between. So it would have been nice to see Lando up there, but we couldn't see it. I think that was my biggest letdown for sure.
Niru?
I mean, I would say probably Leclerc, to be honest, compared to how Sainz was doing. Even though Leclerc made up a couple positions, the strategy just didn't work, honestly, going from hards to softs. And then he made a couple positions, but compared to Sainz, it was just a bit of a letdown as to, he should have been up there, to be honest.
I don't know if it's a car. There's something wrong with his car, for sure. There's no way a great driver like him, you see Carlos putting a pace on that car, and then you see Charles just struggling. Let's find out in the next 2 days what they analyze and find an issue, but I don't think that's even Charles's fault. No, there's something wrong with that car.
Even yesterday, he was saying there's something wrong with the car, and we don't know, and I don't think they still know what's happening.
Yeah, I'd say I just touch on that point as well. That Leclerc, like even though he started so back, I was like, okay, he's got to fight, he's got to grind, he's got to get up there, and he kind of lacked that. Now again, maybe it's the car, maybe it's something that they didn't fix.
Yeah.
But I expected more out of him because like Perez fought, Russell fought.
Yeah.
They were both like starting at the back of the grid, or not back, but like mid pack. So yeah, I didn't see that from Leclerc.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see like someone like Max who can obviously go from the back of the field all the way to front. Of course, Red Bull has such a dominant car, but we would love to see something like that happen with Leclerc. He just goes right from the back all the way to the top, right?
Yeah.
But we're not seeing that.
Yeah. It's also a Max thing, because if you ask Checo to do it, I don't know if he can do the same thing.
Yeah.
Have we seen it today?
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe Russell though. I mean,
Yeah,
Russell had
he
a
showed
really
it.
good drive, P12 to P3.
Yeah.
I mean, but even I was talking to someone, I don't even know if Hamilton in that car could go P12 to P3, honestly.
Yeah.
Because again, I know Hamilton, like in the sense of every interview he's given, he's like, I just not connected to this car
yeah.
compared to Russell, who feels way more comfortable typically. Yeah, he
Yeah.
made a mistake in qualifying yesterday, but like you were saying, he tends to be outperforming Hamilton in most weekends.
Yeah, he doesn't generally complain about the car that much. He kind of just gets on with it. Whereas I feel like other drivers, or maybe Hamilton, might be like, well, the car's not doing this. And if you ever go back to someone ever quoted like the best driver in the grid, they get the most out of the cars.
Yeah.
And I feel like Russell makes the most of sometimes a bad situation. He did last year. Like he pushed that car a lot. So
Yeah, and I think there's also a difference, because a person like Lewis, who's had 15, 20 years career, knows what a car should feel like.
Oh, yeah.
Where Russell, he's 3-4 years in from a Williams.
Yeah.
It's a huge upgrade for
Yeah.
him.
Lewis has felt the W11.
Exactly,
Felt the
right?
He
W11.
felt the pinnacle of the greatest car of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Alonso before I share my kind of biggest disappointment?
yeah.
I'm actually curious. What do you guys think happened there? Because obviously everyone was looking forward to Alonso, home race, having a big weekend,
Yeah.
didn't kind of come together for him. What happened today?
I think it came down from qualifying. He damaged that car, and I don't think they've got a fix on it for the race, and they didn't prepare, or there was not much they could have done. But he still pushed to the limits.
Yep.
And there was moments where near the end of the race, he could have overtaken Stroll, but decided not to and say, we need to maximize on points.
Yep.
And it was great to see
Yeah.
that he still pushed it.
He said he didn't want to get another floor.
he
That's what
didn't
he
want to
said,
replace another floor by pushing Stroll, but still good team points.
Yeah.
Like they're doing really well.
Yeah. Solid recovery.
Solid.
Yeah.
Indeed. And then, so yeah, my biggest disappointment, very quickly, you touched on it, Mikey. FIA, come on, man. Free my man, Yuki.
Yeah.
I had talked about this at the last race reflection, how disappointed I am that Yuki puts in a brilliant performance and then the last 10 laps, something goes wrong, whether it's his mistake, the brakes don't work properly, this penalty. Are you kidding me? And we talked about the hypocrisy as well with George doing something quite similar and getting away with it. Christian even talked about that in his post-race interview.
Drivers.
Yeah.
It just needs to be consistent. If you're going to call it on him, you have to call it on the big dogs too.
Yep.
The Maxes, the Lewises, they got to be called for it, because this has happened many times.
Yeah.
And it's just a piss off, to be honest.
Every race, it seems to be different.
Yeah.
Like
No
you don't know what's
consistency,
going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what about the next race then? Canada, Montreal, we are going.
Oh yeah.
We're very excited. There's going to be a ton of content, guys. We're going to release,
Yeah.
various activations and
But
stuff.
before that, we need to hear from Woody.
Oh, Woody. Oh, my
Yeah.
God. Yes, Woody. Sorry, Woody.
Yes.
I want to hear from you very quickly. Do you think the Mercedes side pods have worked, or just generally the upgrades have worked or not?
All right, so the Mercedes upgrades were a long time coming, and they have finally given in and gotten some proper side pods. And it is safe to say that they are already reaping the rewards of that decision. They looked great over one lap in quali, minus their collision of course, but it was their ability to maintain pace throughout the race which was most impressive, and I think a lot of that comes down to their ability to maintain the tyres. As we saw early on in the race, they were able to stay out on the softs much longer than their competition and able to keep up the pace too. It's safe to say they're back and competing, and given Hamilton's comments on them being underwhelming with their new upgrades, which were part of a long-term plan, I can't wait to see what this long-term plan is, and they could well and truly be back for good. Is Mercedes dominance right around the corner? Well, that's up to you guys to decide.
That was awesome, Woody. Thank you for your answer. Guys, going back to what I was saying, in terms of the Canadian Grand Prix, we are going to be there. A lot of content we are going to be sharing. What are we looking forward to when it comes to the Canadian Grand Prix? Do we feel like Hamilton, Mercedes could have the same type of performance they had last year where they both came up on the podium again? Henny?
I think so. I anticipate Aston Martin also getting back into the fight. I don't know about Ferrari. We've given them a lot of hope. I feel like they will still somehow be in that mix, but it should be a good fight, and we'll see if the B-spec car works again. I know we've only seen it on one specific track, and it's a karting track that a lot of racers love. So Montreal is going to be a fun one, and we will probably interview some of them.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Where's the wood?
Knock on wood.
Mikey, what about you? You looking forward to Canada?
Yeah, I can't wait. Obviously, we're going to be there, so it's going to be a great experience. But yeah, it's a kind of a similar track where there's one main straight, a lot of high-speed corners. I think Alpine could do really well. They brought a lot of upgrades, and let's see what McLaren can do. Like they did well in qualifying. Maybe they can bring something. So no, just in general, like I can't wait for that. It's going to be a good race. Yeah.
Niru?
I can't wait. The excitement and buzz around the Canadian Grand Prix always seems to be more than normal.
Yep.
We're obviously going to be very biased. I'm very excited to see what Lewis can do, because that's his good luck charm track. But then even excited for this three-way battle that we might potentially have with Aston Martin and Red Bull potentially.
And remember that Alonso last year did incredibly well from nowhere, literally a surprise when he was P2, and people were like, "Oh my God, he could challenge Max right away coming into turn one." So with a better card this year, who knows what Alonso could do in Canada?
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, okay, just to wrap up, constructors, Mercedes right now definitively ahead of Aston Martin. I think last time, we talked about this. Who do we thought was going to be ahead? I think Mercedes was kind of the unanimous decision. But again, Stroll did put in a better performance this weekend than previous weekends. Does that change anything, or do we still think Mercedes is going to come out on top in P2?
It's way too early.
Yeah.
It's way too early. Like consistency, if you look at Lewis and George, that's better than Stroll and Alonso right now.
Yep.
And it's been shown. Even Alonso came out today and was like, he admitted, he's like, we need to have two cars getting points consistently and up there. So
Yep. And then in terms of obviously the Drivers' Championship, Max definitively in the lead now.
He's killing. He's on a different level. He's on a different level.
Definitely killing it. But hey, Red Bull did have one L that they took potentially in the last week, losing Rob Marshall.
That was a big one.
Pretty integral part of their engineering team. Again, I think Max came out in an interview and said it's not a person that deals with our current generation of cars, more kind of our future roadmap. But poaching is a big thing, and McLaren picking up an engineer like that could be pretty valuable going forward.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I didn't know about that news, so that's very exciting. But hopefully, that means McLaren can potentially down the road in the future, we can see some better results from them.
100%.
So
amazing. Any final thoughts, comments, concerns, guys?
We're in Montreal, so if you have any questions you would like to ask drivers, principals, whoever, just let us know and we'll ask them.
Incredible. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Remember, if you are coming to Toronto Racing Simulators, use TL50 for 50% off your first hour. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like Henny said, catch us in Montreal. If you are there, literally message us and we will try to get back to you. We're going to try to put out events. We're going to try to be on Peel Street, hosting interviews and doing all sort of fun stuff. It's going to be a really fun time, and we hope to see you there. Thanks.
Yeah.